our next three speakers, our panelists, and they can come here. The first would be Davide Giordano. He's from the Telecommunications Office of the Vatican. I'd like to explain in 1 minute, because people normally see the Vatican as the church, but at the same time, the Vatican is also a city-state, so it is like a country, and from the civil perspective, the Pope Leo also has a governor, and this time it is Sister Raffaella Petrini, and she takes care of the civil part. So they have, for example, the post office, they have the telephones, communications, they have an auditorium, gasoline stations, driver's licenses, policemen, fire trucks, prison even, but I think there's nobody inside. Once in a while maybe, but normally none, hopefully. And so Davide is the one in charge of the telecommunications, but he's also a member of the AI committee of the governorate. That's what we call governatorato, the governor's office of the Vatican, under the Holy Father as the head of state of the Vatican city-state. Okay.
Okay. Good morning to everyone. Thank you. And first of all, I would like to say thank you, Father Gregory, for inviting us as a particular reality in this scenario of the AI and all the rest that we all seem to know. But let me go further deep in this speech. I would like to introduce myself. I started working with the governor of the Vatican City in 2016 as a network administration, network security. Then my interest in studying and everything grow up day by day. And then comes the AI, which seems to be a peculiar topic because it seems not to be that definition, but from day by day, I guess that all of you discover how much is digging the life of all ourselves in everyday topics, just like the guys at school or ourselves at work. So it's an important topic that I like to talk with old colleagues and all of you, of course. I guess we already faced, as we all stated before, what human beings face challenging from the past. And as was saying Leo before, we had Copernicus who start changing the game and saying in 1543 that the Earth was not in the middle of the sky in the world. And so just the very first shock happened to the human being. And then Charles Darwin says that the man was not the very first organic soul, and specific that we are descending from different kind of nature. So another sort of shock and revolution. And then Freud, tell that even the thought and the mental process was not a peculiar specific, something that was just related to human being. And then last but not least, Alan Turing, who starts speaking about the possibility for the mind, for the human brain, to mimic or be mimicked from a machine. And of course, he said that it was not possible, and hopefully it will be not possible for several years. So all of them, all of these guys represent a sort of revolution. But of course, as we already hear before, probably the biggest one and the one we are now commonly used to compare to the AI is the Industrial Revolution in 1819, with the introduction of the, mechanical loom that represent a menace for people, because it was the very first tool able to replace the human in production. And this is the reason why Pope Leo XIII started doing something to express his thought that every one of us know as the Reverend Novarum. And it was the very beginning, for probably the very first act, to try to not fight, not challenge technology. Even because at that time, people, guided from the mythological character of Ned the Lad, choose not to destroy all the mechanical loom, but just the one that were possibly dangerous for people. So the biggest one, the one that was able to do jobs that normal people can't, remains. The other one was destroyed. And now the AI, it's our actual challenge. So that said, let's move to what we feel and how do we behave with AI. With the very intense work from the middle of 2024, we understand that the guidelines were needed because it's easy to fall in love with technology, it's easy to start fearing something that you don't know. The difficult side of the job is try to say, okay, let's sit down, let's understand what we are talking about, let us share dictionary, words, awareness. Okay, so try to face this challenge the best way. And the guidelines started as a sort of very solid framework, basement to start our job. Go ahead, and to have a solid basement, we choose to start from 4 items. And listen to the previous deck, I think that we almost share the same thought and the same feeling and sentiment. By the way, the very first, of course, is related to the human dignity. Every person remains irreplaceable. Sounds easy, but we know that it's not that, because everyday news says that if you find something that is cheaper and efficient, just the way someone could act, it's a sort of temptation. But we say that no, we agree that human dignity is something that is not possible to copy and replace. Then we have, of course, the common good. AI must serve the community and not be the interest of a few. We will see later that data is becoming the new oil. So if you own data, you own something that is really powerful. And we have to be driven from this principle. So we will be able not to fall into desire of doing something that is not for the community, but just for ourselves. Then we have transparency. Seems an easy terms to describe, because, okay, transparency. I wasn't aware of this kind of problem until 1 year ago. I take part into an event which is the AI for Good, that is held from the ITU, that is the Union of the International Telecommunication. And there was a panel where people said from all over the world that algorithm and reasoning system, it's all written in English, and that could turn to be a problem, because not everyone is able to understand and read what is written inside. So transparency, it's another key, even because it's the base for the trust, that is the base for the collaboration. And then, probably the last but not least, of course, is the responsibility, because human remains always the central part of the mechanism and of the reasoning. AI can help human but not substitute itself. So as we said in the very first. From this 4 key principle, we move to a sort of a funnel into 5 sort of safeguard or boundaries that turns out to be the key points of our guidelines. So how can we transform this principle into something useful? Well, of course, please take with care the terms, because if you happen to see limits or bans, it should be something that sounds like, hey, take care, be afraid. No, it's the same when you deal with your toddler, with kids. Limits should sound like, hey, don't do that, or you could hurt yourself. And even the bans, you cannot go outside alone. So it's just the same will to protect. And about the limits, you could see the empty space for each item, because I was trying to insert something that could describe better the terms, but there were too many. So you have to deal with my speech. And about limits, we stated that AI cannot be used in a discriminatory way. So you have just to use, for instance, in judgment law, the end of a judgment is on behalf of the judge and all the process, because there is a human and a brain that can really understand the terms of a process. Law, it's a matter of codes and articles, but the judgment is something that you can weight with the scale and say, and doing some math, just say, okay, this one and this one and this one, guilty or not guilty. No, you have to consider. You have to be a man in front of this situation and take into account all the single shades of the problem. And then the bans. What bans mean? We can use AI for a specific task. For instance, think about some place where social scoring is a process that is allowed. Social scoring should be not that dangerous, and if you terms in some shades, it could be even useful, but consider an HR office where you have to choose people for this experience. So there are some items that you can weight easily with a machine, from the birthday, the nationality, the study, titles, okay. But they are not enough to choose if someone is good for you and for the job. You have to see the person and feeling what he's talking to you. So it's not a matter that AI can help, definitely. Then we have safeguards. Safeguards mean that you can use, for instance, you have to use the tool for what it represents and nothing more. For instance, doing some catalog option for Vatican Museum, for instance, you can ask the AI to describe something and to write down some reports or tasks. But in the end, the professionality of a specialist could not be replaced. So we always, once again, left back to the property of final works to the human. Support, of course, we have to support daily tasks with technology. So the message of the last few items, from support to the last one, that is streamlining, pass from something that should keep us aware of a very powerful tool, but even something that we should be comfortable to use, because it's useful. I guess all of us really understand how it could be useful, just to reduce the amount of work. Okay, so the streamlining is it is part where we all say, okay, let's use as a co-thinker or as a co-pilot I wrote a book from the Harvard Business Review that describes very well the way you can use the AI as a copilot or as a co-thinker. And there is no path. So we put into our guidelines anything you need to be aware of the rules of the AI you are going to choose and do. So it's been a really heavy process to turn all this amount of idea and principle back to 15 articles guidelines, because you have to be fast to give people immediately the tool, even if the most important tool is the awareness and of course people. And for what about the possibility to not be replaced from the AI, I guess that this will be the fear for the next months, because all of you, I believe, already has used the AI for some task. And if you ask the AI to do something for you that you are definitely not aware of, you have to trust. But once you try to ask the AI to do something that you are mastering, you can find all the errors and all the details that you have written down. So, as a tool to help yourself is good. To replace yourself at the moment is not definitely enough. Now, for that reason, we create a commission, a board from the president, Sister Raffaella Petrini, who nominate all the people in the commission. We have His Excellency Emilio Nappa and the lawyer Giuseppe Puglisi Alibrandi, and then 4 group of people with lawyer Emanuela Marini, Mattia Mari, and another colleague of mine from the direction of telecommunication, Andrea Tripoli, and myself, Davide Giordano. And we are all involved in finding tools and framework to better address the task to manage the AI the best way. Now I'd like to say goodbye to you with one of the most intense and important moments of this year in Geneva, in Switzerland, for the Global AI Summit. On behalf of Pope Leo, a speech from Cardinale Parolin, where, to be brief and not to steal more time to you anymore, the words from Pope Leo was clear: convert the AI into a tool that could be a bridge to whatever is good, collaboration and fraternity. So there is no way to misunderstand the words and the goal of our intention. So I hope this work could have reached you the best way, and now for everything that we already shared before, I had the question in my mind, so what could be? I think that now the good question is not anymore what can we be, but in the next time, in the next meeting, what we have done upon all that item and goal that we shared today. And so hope to see and meet you again and see where the progress led us. Thank you very much.